14 dogs you won't believe exist. Number 14, Bull. This Labrador named Bull is considered to actually be two Labradors combined into one. That's right, Bull here was born as a genetic chimera. A chimera is classified as an animal that is composed of two or more different species of animals, such as the mythological creature the name is based on. Bull's unique color pattern is the resulting mixture between a black lab and a yellow lab. Number 13, Chester the Boston Terrier. Cataracts is a condition where the lens of the eye becomes clouded or darkened and gives a sort of white blurring effect to the eye. This is quite common in older people and dogs. However, it can be present as a birth defect and just as something that develops with age. It usually affects dog breeds with flat snouts, such as bulldogs or pugs. Owners can choose to have their dogs go through with surgery to correct it, but Chester here lives a happy life with it, even if his vision is a little cloudy. Number 12, Tiger the German Shepherd. This dog named Tiger is a German Shepherd who happens to have a rare case of genetic dwarfism that is due to a defect in his pituitary gland. Dogs who have genetic dwarfism are usually identified as they get older because they won't grow as much. Dwarfism can also cause dogs to have behavioral issues, like Tiger here who gets nervous around strangers, and certain health issues that can shorten the dog's lifespan. This doesn't necessarily have an effect on the quality of the animal's life, as Tiger has reached his 5th birthday and his owner says Tiger is the most playful pup you could ask for. Number 11, Duke the Super Dog. This little guy named Duke was born with a condition known as cerebellar hypoplasia that is caused when the cerebellum doesn't develop at all. Cerebellar hypoplasia can either be inherited by certain breeds, such as Chow Chows and Boston Terriers, while other dogs develop it when their pregnant mother gets an infection. Symptoms include, but are not limited to, clumsiness, tremors, and in more severe cases, something known as flipping over. Any dog with a moderate to a mild form of this condition is perfectly capable of leading a happy and normal life such as Duke here, but they probably won't be the most graceful. Number 10, Snuffles the Two-Nosed Dog. Snuffles here was born with a rare congenital defect that affected the development of his nose. Instead of having one complete nose, a problem occurred with his palate where his nostrils were supposed to fuse together, and ultimately he was left with a split down the center of his nose, giving him the appearance of two noses. Both nostrils are capable of moving independently from one another. Snuffles has been in an animal shelter in Glasgow for over a month when he was finally set to be adopted by a family. However, that fell through. It was back in April 2014 that Snuffles finally found his forever home. Number 9, Doug. This pointer mix, whose first name was Ugg, was sadly left abandoned at the Mayflower Animal Shelter in England by his first owner when he was just a pup. In a lucky turn of events, he was crowned as Britain's ugliest dog back in 2010, and that's when hundreds of people began to call the shelter asking to adopt him. It was his current owner, April Parker, who ended up taking him home. She formally changed his name from Ugg to the sweeter version of Doug after she rescued him. Number 8, Mr. Moo. While this dog might look normal, Mr. Moo was born with a serious case of cleft palate, which is a condition in which an uncommon opening in the roof of the mouth happens when tissue doesn't form properly in the womb. A dog who is born with this generally tends to suffer health issues that are respiratory related and infections that can develop in their unprotected nasal cavities. Mr. Moo was the first patient to receive an experimental surgery between a human-veterinary team that rebuilt his palate. Not only can Mr. Moo now finally have the carefree life that he deserves, his surgery will help forward the work in fixing cleft palates for children. Number 7, Chloe the Basset Hound. Chloe here happens to be a Basset Hound who had her right eye removed because of her glaucoma. Congenital glaucoma is a condition that can cause high pressure levels within the eye. It can cause the eyeballs to become enlarged. In some cases, the pressure and pain can only go away if the entire eye is removed. However, this doesn't affect the quality of life, and dogs can continue to have happy and loving lives, just like Chloe. Number 6, Bonsai. This little bulldog named Bonsai was only around 3 weeks old when his family decided to have his back legs amputated. Bonsai was born with a few deformities such as half of a missing spine and pelvis, flat chest, and malformed legs. His owners reached out to the Friends of Emma Rescue organization for help, and it was then decided that Bonsai would have his legs removed instead of being put to sleep. With lots of physical rehabilitation and muscle therapy, Bonsai is on his way to a happier quality of life. Number 5. Duncan the two-legged dog. Duncan here was born with a majorly deformed pelvis and hind legs. These birth defects are usually because of a lack of nutrition on the mother's part while she's pregnant. Lucky enough, a rescue organization named Panda Paws Rescue came into the picture and provided him with the much-needed surgery that Duncan required. His legs were removed, and he now gets around by using his front legs or a wheelchair, but he prefers his legs most of the time. He attends regular therapy and hydrotherapy that help exercise him and keep his spine in the best shape it can be. Number 4. Derby the bionic dog. Derby here was most likely born with a version of antebrachial growth deformity, or more commonly known as abnormally shortened legs. This birth defect is genetically inherited from parent to offspring and can become clearly seen as the puppy matures. Derby had been turned into a shelter after his first family decided not to keep him anymore, and he was facing the possibility of being put to sleep. Fortunately, Derby found his way to a foster home where his temporary owner was running a 3D printing lab. After several months, Derby was equipped with new 3D prosthetics that allow him to run and play. Since then, Derby has become a much happier dog, says his foster dad. Number 3. Muscular Whippet. This bench-pressing pooch is definitely larger than it's supposed to be. Its body doesn't create enough myostatin, a protein in the dog's body that when repressed, continues the growth of muscle definition and doubling the dog in size. This is where the term for this condition known as double muscling comes from. Number 2. Sandy, the bow-legged dog. What started out as a hopelessly heartbreaking tale has now been turned into one of compassion and warmth. Sandy the German Shepherd was born with severely deformed legs that left him disabled and abandoned by his previous owner in Greece. When the news about Sandy's condition began to spread, a local charity in the UK called Mutts in Distress stepped in. They managed to raise enough money through donations and flew Sandy out for his surgeries. Sandy eventually had both of his legs straightened out and now lives at Miss Clark's Animal Sanctuary. Number 1. Quasimodo. Quasimodo was discovered as a stray in Kentucky, and it took local authorities 5 days to capture him, but he was finally brought in when they lured him with food. This purebred German Shepherd was born with short spine syndrome, and as a result, was born with a part of his spine missing. There are only 13 dogs in the entire world that have this rare condition. Quasimodo was taken into the second-hand Hound's animal shelter in Minnesota earlier this year, and the last that was heard of him, he was living in a new foster home until he can find his forever home.